Good evening, duelists, and welcome to Inside the Invocation, the best place to catch up on the latest news and events in the Genius Invocation scene. I'm your host, Reporter Blep. Tonight, I'll be bringing you highlights from Prince Cup Southeast Asia, Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, which I had the honor of casting live in Malaysia this weekend, along with my wonderful co-caster, Leah at Windflower Leah. As always, the set was amazing, though interestingly this time was built right in the middle of Sunway Pyramid Mall. Anyone passing by could come by and watch the event live. Of course, all the action was captured on stream, but for those short on time, let me take you through a quick recap of the weekend. If any decks or matches interest you though, be sure to check out the full VOD available on my channel. Our first quarterfinals match was Hua vs Arc. Hua was using a variant of Shenhe Superconduct with Ayaka instead of Chongyun, which leverages the buffed Inazuma Resonance. Arc opted for Fischl Mona Nahida, a pretty standard electrocharge deck that has recently become popular over the Oceanid variant. Early on, Hua looked to be at a significant advantage, starting with double Timmy and also able to draw into double Kid Kujire for a huge dice advantage going into round 3. However, Arc was able to stage a comeback in the last round after Hua was forced to play into Covenant, I Haven't Lost Yet, giving Arc the extra skill needed to win. In Game 2, Hua swapped to Pyro Kaching and played against Agent Electrocharged. Hua got off to a difficult start with a bad dice roll in the first round, giving Arc a significant lead early on. The Agent EC deck maintained this advantage, pressuring Hua and not giving him an opening to effectively utilize his characters. It wasn't long before Arc won, taking the match 2-0 and advancing to the semifinals. The next quarterfinals match was Kong vs Inzaghi. Both players chose very unusual decks to start, Kong with a Hu Tao, Vape and Melt deck that used 3 Liyue characters and Lithic Spear, while Inzaghi's deck was Yoimiya, Child, Bennett, a combo deck centered around Bennett's Burst and Child's high damage kit. Unfortunately, this turned out to be a pretty bad matchup for Inzaghi, with the threat of freeze being a real problem at letting him effectively utilize Child. While Xingqiu fell early, his Rain Sword stack stuck around, and in the end, the threat of it was too much and Kong won the first game. For Game 2, Kong brought the popular Nahida Electrocharge deck, while Inzaghi chose to stick with Child. As expected, Nahida Electrocharge put out a significant amount of pressure, but this time, without freeze, Inzaghi was able to set himself up for an incredible Bennett combo turn. Kong tries really hard to avoid letting Child OTK, but Inzaghi is able to perfectly manage his dice to allow for a Covenant into a King's Squire discounted skill, triggering gamblers and ending the game with a huge burst. This was a really fun game to watch, so I'd highly recommend you go back and watch the full thing. And in round 3, Kong brought out the Barbara Ito Noel or Bin deck. This one was banned pretty often by most players, so we didn't actually see it on camera this weekend, but Inzaghi was one of the few players not afraid of it. On his side, Inzaghi was using a standard build of Shenhe Superconduct. At the end of round 2, Kong makes a risky move by ending on Ito at only 5 HP, with Inzaghi going first. With Cryo Resonance in hand, Inzaghi is immediately able to take out Ito on his turn, and the game slowly but surely goes in his favor, eventually winning that game and the whole set 2-1, moving on into the semifinal. And our third match for the day started with a set of very unique decks, Diaren using Klee, Fischl, Nahida, and Rev using a summon-heavy Chi-Chi, Oceanid, Xiangling deck. It doesn't take long for Rev to fill his side with summons dealing significant damage. The fight is close, and Diaren manages to burst on Klee, but Rev is able to last one more round for his summons and win just before he would have lost to the Klee burst. In Game 2, Diaren opts to use the same deck, playing into Rev's Shenhe Superconduct. While Diaren gets some good damage in, a send-off on Oz in the first round slows him down, forcing him back onto Fischl and giving Rev time to deploy Shenhe's burst. It's another really close game, but Rev is able to pull ahead slightly in the damage race, and the damage from Klee's burst again coming in too slow, with Chongyun able to finish the game, giving Rev the win in this set 2-0. The last set of the day was between Ian Radtan and Z Crimlet. We have our first almost mirror match, Z Crimlet using the standard Agent Electrocharge, but Ian Radtan choosing Sino instead as his anchor. Both sides deploy the summons and trade off their characters, and while Z Crimlet is able to keep Pyro Agent alive against Oceanid, he is put in a spot where he is about to lose to the impending Oceanid burst. However, on his turn, he is able to draw into Star Signs, which gives Agent just enough energy to burst and finish off Oceanid for the win. For Game 2, Ian Radtan switches it up with Yai Quicken, while Z Crimlet uses a different Electrocharge variant, Sara Mona Venti. Both decks are able to very quickly pile on damage, and things are looking bad for Z Crimlet, but he is able to end the game with the use of Mondstadt Resonance to get him one turn ahead of Ian Radtan in the last round, winning the series 2-0. On to Day 2 with our top 4. The first semi-final is between Arc and Inzaghi, and is a Shenhe Superconduct mirror match. Ark immediately goes on the offensive, taking out Inzagi's Shenhe right away at the start of the second round with a Raiden Adeptus burst. But while it looks bad, Inzagi is able to finish off Raiden with Chongyun and then follow into an I Haven't Lost Yet burst, which, when buffed by Shenhe's skill and Raiden's summon, does exactly 9 damage needed to finish off Ark's own Shenhe before burst, now leaving him with only Chongyun against 2 full health characters. Notably, Ark did have a copy of Send Off in his hand, which he could have used to remove the Raiden summon, which would have actually prevented the kill on Shenhe and kept her alive on 1 for another turn to burst. But from here, Inzagi is able to press his advantage with 2 characters to the 1 and takes game 1. In game 2, Ark sticks with Shenhe Superconduct and Inzagi instead brings Yae version of Agent Electrocharged. While Inzagi does get Tubby in his opening hand, he has no location cards to go along with them, but with 2 Liebens, he's able to find some for next turn. Ark does a standard opening with Shenhe Burst, but Inzagi has a send-off ready which catches him up after his slower start. Eventually, Ark is able to get off Raiden Burst, followed into another Shenhe Burst, but unfortunately for him, Inzagi has the second send-off for this as well. With both bursts getting sent off, Inzagi is an overwhelming advantage and he maintains that, winning this game and the series 2-0. The second semi-final was Z Crimlet once again using Sara, Mona Venti, and Rev bringing the new Weapon Quicker deck, one of my own favorites. However, without a King Squire to start, he's a little slower on the damage and loses Kale really early on. While he eventually does draw the weapon, with only Fischl left, the combo is much less effective and is unable to mount a comeback, giving Z Crimlet the win. Game 2 has Rev switching to Shenhe Superconduct and Z Crimlet using Pyro-Kaching. Z Crimlet gets off to a great start, sniping off Shenhe with a Tandoori Stiletto skill before Shenhe is able to burst. However, Rev is able to stay in the game and then the last round is able to turn the tables with Double Woven to finish off Z Crimlet and tie the set 1-1. For the crucial game 3, Z Crimlet decides to use Agent Electrocharged again and Rev is on Barbara Ito Noel. Both sides get off to great starts with Z Crimlet able to deploy Tubby and start playing locations and Rev equipping Ito with Tenacity while also having the Vanarana Tenshikaku combo. However, the key turning point here is on round 3, where Rev deploys double Vanarana which denies Z Crimlet any use out of the 2 Favonius Cathedrals he spent his dice on for that turn, giving him an overwhelming dice advantage going into round 4. Moreover, the Oceanid summons disappear on this round as well, which keeps Ito safe from the threat of a burst. Rev is able to use this window to use Arcane Courtyard and equip Ito with the bell, and he's quickly able to turn the tables. After Fischl goes down and with no easy way to threaten Ito, Rev slowly but surely takes over the game and takes the set 2-1. And so, after a long 2 days, we reach the finals between Inzagi and Rev. Game 1 starts with the Mona Nahida Electrocharge deck into a Hu Tao Yoimiya Vaporize. Inzagi is able to put a significant amount of pressure, helped somewhat even by the Dendro Core he was able to get off of Xingshu's burst. Both Rev's key combo characters Hu Tao and Yoimiya get really low, and he has no opportunity at all to utilize them effectively, and Inzagi easily takes game 1. For game 2, Inzagi chooses Agent Electrocharge and Rev switches into Shenhe Superconduct. Inzagi is once again able to start with Tubby as well as Li Wei Wolf, the combination already putting him in a great spot. Rev also has a strong opening with Li Xiu, but the quick Shenhe burst is immediately met with send-off. Then, when Rev tries to go for a Raiden burst, Inzagi is able to use Star Sign's Adeptus to take her out with Yae. Rev does manage to build back up to Shenhe burst, and is able to get Inzagi down to just Oceanid, which is not where the Agent Electrocharge deck wants to be. Things are looking pretty bad, but Rev is not able to finish off Oceanid, and Inzagi managed to barely hang in there, healing back up between Lucky Dog and Favonius Cathedral. The summons whittle Rev down, and Inzagi is barely able to win that second match, giving him a significant 2-0 lead in this best of 5. At match point, Rev chooses to stick with Shenhe Superconduct, while Inzagi brings out the Yoimiya Child Bennett deck. This time, however, Rev rushes out Raiden's burst, putting a lot of pressure on Inzagi even through his Bennett burst, and is very quickly able to close out the game before Child becomes a problem, bringing the set back to 2-1. Unfazed by that loss, Inzagi again uses the same deck with Rev choosing Weapon Quicken. Okay, the first round here ends up being so crucial. Rev draws an incredibly strong opening hand with King Squire and a Woven. However, he ends up choosing to tune Covenant in order to use Dendro Res instead of saving it to normal attack on Kale with both Covenant and a Woven. While this line still forces Inzagi off of Bennett, it does leave him alive, and eventually Inzagi is able to find a window to burst on Bennett, and we once again see Child take over the game, OTKing Rev for the win and the Prince Cup Championship with a 3-1 finish. Little fun fact, I did talk to Inzaghi after the match specifically about this moment, and he told me he was aware of the possibility that the normal attack line could happen, but that specifically he chooses not to play around it and would have stayed on Bennett. So had Rev gone for that line instead, Inzaghi would have lost his Bennett to a first turn kill and likely lost the match from there and bring it to a 5th game. Overall, the whole series was phenomenal, and I'd highly recommend watching the whole thing if you have time, including the player interview with Inzaghi at the end, because it's a real treat. And if you need more Genius Invocation action, be sure to subscribe to the Astra Carnival YouTube, where you'll be able to watch not only this tournament, but previous tournaments that I've casted, and be notified when new ones go up. As always, it's such a privilege to be able to bring you these matches, and I hope to see you again at the next one. This has been Reporter Blep, bringing you inside the Invocation. Signing off. Until next time, good night, Tevat.